All right, brother, we're going to continue with this in Psalms 91. And not only that, but we mentioned terms and conditions.
Yeah, you mentioned that. We're trying to talk about, finding safety and refuge, and then you go and throw this monkey wrench in the whole business of
Darn
saying,
it.
oh, well, maybe not for you. So Psalms 91, we were talking about this, and I remember the Gideons used to hand out Bibles, gave them out at the school. New Testament, Psalms, and Proverbs. Military people used to have a World War II, and they had the little Bible with a metal cover, and I remember seeing bullets having pierced through the metal that the guy wore in his pocket, would have gone in his heart and opened it up, and the bullet lead had stopped right at a certain verse, and it was, I forget which verse it was, but it could well have been Psalms 91. It was just really poignant, hearing that story back in the 60s. The thing is, though, you're saying, oh, well, you're not necessarily having access to these promises unless you regard the Torah. But in the Gideon's Bible of New Testament Psalms and Proverbs, there's no Torah.
Yeah.
Never mentioned.
They might as well throw out the Psalms and Proverbs too then.
By what qualification?
Well, like the verse I just showed you, or the verses in Psalms 50.
We just happen to have it right here.
Let's have a look.
Psalms 50, verses, well, let's go to, well, let's just start with verse 15. 14 says, offer Elohim confession, then redeem your vows to the Most High. If I back up, that's what I was sitting here looking at for a moment. It says, let's go back to verse 8. Elohim speaking here. Oh, let's back up. Verse 7. Pay heed, my people, and I shall speak. Israel, and I shall bear witness against you. This must be sung by Asaph speaking. Elohim, your Elohim, am I. Well then now, so it's Elohim speaking, it's Yahweh speaking here. Asaph is writing this in Psalm 50, Elohim, Yahweh is speaking. I shall not rebuke you for your sacrifices, nor are your burnt offerings my constant concern. I take not from your household any bull, nor from your pens any goats. For mine is every beast of the forest, the cattle of 1,000 mountains. I know every bird of the mountains, and what creeps upon my fields is with me. Even were I hungry, I would not tell you, for mine is the world and its fullness. So Yahweh is not sitting there, why won't they sacrifice to me? Why won't they show their love to me by sacrificing? He said, I don't care. All the animals are mine. I'll eat them if I want to, but I'm not even hungry for them. You can't appease me with your sacrifices. It's not about the sacrificial offerings. Verse 13. Do I eat the flesh of bulls or drink the blood of goats? Verse 14. Offer Elohim confession. Then redeem your vows to the Most High. That's Most High is El Elyon. Verse 15. And call upon me in the day of distress. I will release you and you will honor me. Confess. That's the word shin bet. Return. Repent. Go back to what he said. Look at what he said, learn his language, read his words, and realize how far we have strayed, what doctrines we have inherited. It says in another verse, we received only lies from our forefathers, our ancestors, our generations of doctrinal, not blaming anybody, not even blaming church or school or parents or culture. I'm not blaming anybody. It's the circumstances of the world that we find ourselves in. Yahweh set this whole thing up, and he's telling us how to remedy, how to fix it. Verse 16, but to the wicked. Now those wicked are the ones that glory and revel in their unrighteousness, in their evil, in the harm they do to one another, and the ones who refuse to repent, refuse to acknowledge that they have any distance from him and his ways, from Yahweh and his ways. But to the wicked, Elohim says, to what purpose do you recount my decrees and bear my covenant upon your lips? So he's saying, they're not just saying phooey with anything he said, they're actually talking about his Torah. They're talking about his decrees and his covenant. Verse 17, for you hate discipline, and you threw my words behind you. If you saw a thief, you agreed to be with him, and with adulterers was your lot. You dispatched your mouth for evil, and your tongue adheres to deceit. You sit and speak against your brother, you slander your mother's son. These have you done, and I kept silent. You thought that I was like you. I will rebuke you and lay it clearly before your eyes. Understand this now, you who have forgotten Elohim, lest I tear you asunder and there be none to rescue. He who offers confession honors me, and the one who orders his way, I will show him Yeshua, the salvation of Elohim. Bet Yod Shin Ayin. That's Yisha. That's the word salvation of Elohim. He's not concerned with our burnt offerings. He's not concerned with our talking about his covenant and about his laws and then doing otherwise. He's concerned with he who orders his way.
He says that elsewhere, where is it? Ezekiel 20 or 25 or something. He said, I didn't even talk to you guys about sacrifices and burnt offerings the day I took you out of Egypt. I just said, obey my voice. That's what he wants. Obedience.
He wants obedience. The burden is upon each one of us to walk. The word Yashar, Yod Shin Resh, is the first three letters of the word Israel. Yod Shin Resh Aleph Lamed is Israel. Yashar El. Yashar is similar to the word Aleph Shin Resh, which means straight, to walk. In construction, there's this term plumb level square. Straight, smooth, flat, not uphill and downhill, just correctly, like walking on a tightrope. Neither to the right to the left, neither adding nor subtracting. That's what he keeps saying again and again and again. The other day when I said, he could have said, he offers, I will show the salvation of Elohim to the one who pleads the blood. He didn't say that. It's not about the sacrifice. It's not even about the Messiah, the Yeshua here. He says to the one who orders his way. The one who hears the word and does it. The one who reads the Torah, the instructions of righteousness, and corrects his behavior, his heart and soul and actions. He says it again and again. Ayin Vav Dalet, repeatedly, forcefully, again and again and again. If that's true, then Psalms 91, the refuge that we want to claim, is contingent upon, is dependent upon how we order our ways, how we walk, how we live. So we're going to pick up with verse 3, Psalms 91. We did Psalms 91 verses 1 and 2 in the last video. Kaf Yod He Vav Aleph, Ki Hu. Ki, Kaf Yod, is the word that means when, while, thus, therefore, if, because, for, although, in which case, he, the word in English, he, H-E, or it, or the same as who. He is who. He in English is who in Hebrew. He Vav Aleph. So it means that basically, thus, the same, or this same one, Yod, he will is the prefix, Zadi Yod Lamed Kaf. I Zilcha, or I Zaleka. Zadi Yod Lamed means Well, you try to look it up in the dictionary. You get Zadi Vav Lamed, the depth of the sea, Zadi Lamed Lamed, to sink or plunge. It's also the word sonoric. We happen to be in Sonora. When you go to sleep, you're sonoring. It's the same thing. It has to do with music, recorded, scored, has to do with frequency, but it's clarified and purified. But it also is related to the word Bet Zadi Lamed, that has to do with covering over, shading, putting in an oven. The word sombrero, the hat that provides shade. Grow dark, shadowy, has to do with tingled and quivered, which also has to do with the music. So what does this mean? He is the same one, or he likewise, and then there's this word for depth of the sea, to sink or plunge. He will sonora you. He will clarify, purify you. He will cover over you. And then here's this word, mem pe het. Mem as a prefix can mean the place of or away from, not of. The place you used to be of and you left. But pe het is snare, trap, or disappointment. The word mem pe het, looking in the dictionary, means deflate, breathe out, expire, or frustrated. Punch a hole in a tire and you're all ready to go and, oh man. I mean, we had all these great plans for building stuff, for doing things, for business. People were going to come to this inn and have a vacation, and oh man, all the reservations are lost. All the businesses are shut down for a week, a month, 9 months, 8. New York, what are we supposed to do? That's this word, completely deflated, frustrated, disappointed. Then here's this next word, yod, kuf, vav, shin. Kuf, vav, shin means to lay snares. It's a minefield. It's trap. Kuf, vav, shin also means difficult, severe, very hard, or to pose difficult questions, or to read these words and find them to be very difficult to understand and comprehend. That's the same word. Mem dalet bet resh. Well, that's the word wilderness. So here's a difficult wilderness, a severe, like a minefield out in Israel. There's a barbed wire fence, and right on the other side it says, don't go there because there's mines laid everywhere. You don't know where they are. And it's a wilderness of traps. Hey vav vav tav. That word literally can't be found in this dictionary, but hey vav vav yod means present, actual, or happening. Hey vav hey, now, present tense. It's also the word for desire and ruin and cause to be. Hey vav vav nun means capitalization. So you write a word and you put it in capital letters. So that's the sentence for verse 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words. Ki hu I zileka mafrach ikush medabar hout hey vav vav tav. Please forgive my pronunciation, but some people might be cringing at that. What's this mean? He is the same one who plunges to the depth to clarify. It's like a water or a well that you put stuff in and the sediment goes down and you have pure water on top. That's the picture in here. Then there's this deflated disappointment, to lay snares or have something difficult. And then this word midbar, which is wilderness. But dabar is actually word, stipulations that we agreed on. So midbar is language, a place of words. This dictionary is a midbar. It's translated wilderness, but it's actually a place of words. And then capitalize, which if you capitalize letters on Facebook, yeah, you're shouting. I capitalize letters if they're the English equivalent of the Hebrew letters. Just so you know, if you ever see any of my stuff, it's not a matter of shouting. It's a matter of making a distinction to show that this isn't an English word. It's actually a Hebrew word, just using English letter equivalents, like Aleph is A, Bet is B, Gimel would be a G, Dalet is a D, that type of a thing. So I sat here and tried to figure what this sentence might mean, and this is what I came up with. Same as when he covers you, when deflated, he will bait snares so that his word is happening. That's not the way it reads in the other translation. Let me read that again. Just like, it's exactly the same, when he covers you, when you're deflated, he will bait snares so that his word is happening. He will do something to affect the circumstances in the world to make sure that his word comes true, even when you look around and are deflated. So when we look around and say, gosh, we're out of business. There's no more income. Used the money we had, bought some supplies. There's no way to get any more money. What's going to happen? Oh, the government said they'd hand everybody a few coins. Yeah, right. Maybe. But then we're going to maybe have martial law with military vehicles and everybody's staying at homes and everybody's getting sick. And it's like, there's no hope. There's no view of being able to see anything on the other side of this event. But he will do something to make sure that his word, it remains true. Another way to read this. Difficulty and disappointment only happens as agreed. In other words, when he gave us the stipulations, the debar, back in the Mount Sinai and in this Torah, the first 5 books, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and Deuteronomy, or Bereshit, Shemot, Vayikra, Numbers is what? Bamidbar, and Deuteronomy is Devarim. What he said back then, go back and read it, because that's the way the world's going to happen. That's the way he's going to conduct his kingdom. Displacement, or the placement of snares are laid out, positioned where the words indicate they are. He's already told us where the snares are. The map of the minefield, or even the mines under the water, are exactly where they said they are. It's interesting, I was looking at Mem Dalet Bet Resh, so that's the word midbar, or the place of words, or as stipulated, or just like he told us, as we agreed back there. And so you look up Mem Dalet Bet Kaf is a layer of stones. Mem Dalet, there's this word that all of a sudden I saw in the dictionary. It's one of the reasons I tell people, hey, just read the dictionary and don't even look online. Look in the dictionary, because your eyes bump into other words around it. I bumped into this word that's spelled Mem Dalet, Aleph Vav Resh, Yod Tav Aleph. And it means from that of the instruction of the Torah. It's like, well, how would you pronounce that? Mem Dalet, MD, Aleph Vav Resh is the word or, which is light, and then Yod Tav Aleph. Medorita. Medorita, well, Doritos are corn chips. So this is almost like Medorita is my little corn chip. I adore. That's where we get the word adore, Aleph. Adar, like Adar, the month of Adar. But the point is, it means a little bit of Torah teaching is golden. And that's just a word I bumped into. Anyway, one of the things I do, which I'm not going to go into here, is that your mind wanders and goes and looks at other words and different spellings and bump into this different ideas and come up with different graphics and on and on and on and on. And it's like, well, is that off topic? No, it's not off topic. It's musing. It's contemplating. It's just like a ship. I have this one picture on the map, is a boot upside down like a ship with a sail on it and a helm and it's just a ship. Like walking, halakha is the word to walk, and we're supposed to, the same word hagah is rudder, helm, steering wheel, to pronounce this, in this, the spelling of words and its consonantal phonetics, and it's like we're supposed to walk according to what these letters say, and to just play with different graphics and drawings, and just navigating through the waters of what he said is a great way to spend the time. You know, they're talking about shutting down perhaps the internet in a couple weeks and having it off for a couple weeks. And you might be, whether you have the power or not, you might be completely off the internet. So, hey, learn Hebrew.
Saturate,
learn Hebrew. That's what we're doing this for, and hopefully getting it up So that just to give people some pointers. So anyway, verse 3 says, essentially, this act that we're doing of purifying and clarifying these letters is nothing new. It's exactly what he told us back there in the wilderness of Sinai, or in the language that he spoke on Mount Sinai, which was Hebrew. And with his finger writing Paleo Hebrew on the tables of stone, this is just bringing to capitalization, present tense. Hey, vav vav tav, midbar ha'ut, Mem Dalet Bet Resh, He Vav Vav Tav, the last two letters of verse 3, and though it seems difficult and severe, and this hard question, it's made perfectly clear and explained for the ease of mind when you look at this Paleo Hebrew. That's what these words are saying. Verse 4. Bet, Aleph Bet Resh Tav Yod, Ba Abarto. Well, Aleph Bet Resh, Avar, that's the first three letters of the word for Abraham, and it literally means pinion. Pinion wings, to fly. But Bet Resh means to articulate clearly. Hey Bet Resh, Havar, means pure pronunciation, which means like the Semitic alphabet, letter by letter, syllable by syllable. In Hebrew, every letter is a syllable. And Bet Aleph, the first two letters, means enter or to import, I-M-P-O-R-2, it's arriving. It's arriving, the pinion wings by which we can rise up like Abraham to fly over the obstacles by articulating in pure pronunciation each letter. Bet Resh Resh, which is a derivative of Bet Resh, literally means select, chosen, to separate, sharpen, or make clear. To separate, like separating the letters. Looking at it, that's the Eryctology study, of looking at the syllables, the consonants, the bits and pieces, the prefix, the suffix, the verb roots, and break them down and know what it means. Yod Samek Kaf, the second word, means to anoint. But if you go back and you look in the dictionary and look at the words that have to do with Samek and Kaf, like Samek Vav Kaf Kaf, is a protecting shield. Samek Vav Kaf is the word for a large branch, like a sukkah, where you get under and you make this thing in the fall feast at Sukkot. To go back and to import, to bring into your life, according to the terms of his covenant, the meanings of these Hebrew letters, and find your protection in the truth, in the authenticity of what every one of these words mean, because they're valid and they're lasting. And the next word, lakah, lamed kaf, means for you, or to you, or as you were given, and it means you're going. So we have in the Christian teachings that, we're a kingdom of priests and kings. Well, the word for priest is Kohen, which literally, kaf he nun, you can look at it, means kaf he means just like this. Hey nun is behold gladly beautiful, and kaf nun is yes, so truly thus. The priest's job is to be able to point to these things that are true and say it's absolutely this. But as we talked in the first video that we did, wearing the black sweater, sitting here the other day, doing all these at this particular occasion, wearing this so we could keep them in this group, we've inherited doctrines which are not what he said, which claims that he nailed things to the cross, did away with them, they're no more, they're impertinent, and he changed the day, changed his name, changed his covenant, changed the terms and stipulations, and he says in his word, he will not do that, and we should trust these words. You look at the words in Hebrew, you get a different story than if you read them in English and go to church.
What book is it in? He talks about the Christians are disqualified right out the gate because they reject Torah.
What? Where did he say that?
Well, he says my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, and he talks about the people that
disqualified right out of the gate.
Yeah, it just said that. It says that you shall be no priest to me because you have no regard for the Torah.
Psalms 50 said, how, essentially, if I paraphrase, how dare you think you can talk about my stuff, not take it to heart, not do it, and still think you get the protections of the stipulations that were dependent on your actions? This is serious stuff.
It's
We're not
real
messing
serious.
around. What were the words of that song? This is no party. This is no dance. This is like really
This ain't
serious.
no party. This ain't no disco. This ain't no fooling around.
Yeah. Lamed Kaf. There's a parashah. There's a reading that's called Lech Lecha. He said to Abraham, "Go, get out!" And it was spelled Lamed Kaf, Lamed Kaf. So that word means go, get out. This is to you. And the word, when I say, well, we're kings and priests, the word priest means point to the truth gladly, behold, make it clear. But the word king is Mem Lamed Kaf, Melech. And the word Mem means one who is at the place of Lamed Kaf. Doing as instructed, as you were told. Do what you're told. The king is not necessarily the man of royalty that everybody else has to do what he says. It's the one who does what Yahweh says. That's a melech. Mem Lamed Kaf. It's all how you read these words. You get a translation, you listen to other people telling you this or that. Read the words for yourself. You don't need to have one of these books. You can get them online. You can punch it up. Well, if they shut down the online in a couple of weeks, you might want to get a Stones to Knock. Now, I have no investment in the stocks of this company, but it's a great book. It's easy to read. And JPS I don't necessarily appreciate so much because it's a different format of the publication. But on the erictology.net website, we had put the entire Bible up in Paleo Hebrew that you can download for free. The point is, the next word, Vav Tav Het Tav, Ve Tachat, means underneath where you stand. Then kanafio, his wings, kaf nun pei yod vav. And then tav het samek he, tahasa. And then zadi nun he, zana. Zadi is like a TZ sound, tzana, TZNH. And then vav samek het resh, he, ve Sachara. And then Aleph Mem Tav Vav, Emeto. Okay, so let's go through this. Verse 4. Bet Aleph is arriving pure articulation, pure pronunciation, which is knowing his letters and what they mean and how to say them, though I'm not particularly articulating them the way some would appreciate. But anyway, that's the pinion wings that lifts up as a protecting shield that we are under for you. It was given to us to conduct the way we're going, because the way that we're going is the land under our feet is this next word, underneath where you stand. And underneath where you stand, as you're walking on the way he said according to his pure pronunciation, which isn't English and Greek, it's in the Hebrew, his wings. That word kanaf is wing, but like nun pei yod, nun pei or nun vav pei is the word for brandishing and moving and sifting and waving. So while we're walking on his path, he's above us, just knocking everything else out of the way. It's not just we're sitting under the shelter of his wing hiding. We're walking on the way, lifting up as wings of eagles, and he's clearing everything else out around us. That's what picture is going on here. It's not a static an umbrella. It's soaring. Nun Vav Pei is soaring. We're soaring on these wings and he's clearing everything out. And it's like the Hebrew, there's a lot more going on. And
well,
then
that
the
makes
word
sense, because later in that psalm, doesn't it talk about 10,000 shall fall by your side?
That's a couple
Knocking
verses
the heck
ahead
out
we're
of
going to
them.
hopefully get to. The next word, Tav Het Samek He. Well, that word Het Samek is the word for lettuce, like the vegetable, refuge or being protected. The word for Samek Vav He is the word for camouflage or hide or conceal. The word for Samek Kaf, because that word, the second word was Yod Samek Kaf, was cover or screening or the large branch or this protecting shield. So he has this camouflage. In fact, the festival of Sukkot, the one in the fall where you're supposed to have this protective covering, it's basically making it out of branches and leaves, like you're making a camouflage tent. It's not necessarily staying in a hotel or in your RV. You can do that if you want. I'm not putting anybody down, but I'm saying that the festival of Sukkot has these words with these pictures of making for yourself a camouflage covering of branches and hiding out in it for a week, camping out in it. the same word for hide and conceal. And then the next two words are, so there's actually 9 words in this verse, is vav samek het resh. Hey, well, vav is a prefix, hey is a suffix, so you got samek het resh, which means travel about, or trafficked, or conduct commerce, conduct business as usual. It's translated as the word for buckler or shield, which is samek vav het resh. So what I'm saying is that if you look at the word samek het resh, which is the one that's used in the text, the only way they call it, well, your shield and buckler. And it's like, it doesn't necessarily say shield and buckler. The word zadi nun hey is a large shield, but it's also a basket. But it comes from the word for sheep. It's also official. And the word sheep is zadi aleph nun, or those who go out. And then those who go out what? Conducting business as usual. We're under a quarantine. Everybody's infected. Oh no, what's going to happen? But for us to go out and have the complete confidence that Yahuwah is our protection, our refuge. Now, I'm not telling anybody to defy the quarantine. I'm not telling anybody to take any risk. But I'm telling you there's an attitude, there's a mindset of absolute confidence which affects the frequency, the resonating of the cells at a cellular level. Electrons and protons. And there's something about being confident in Him which doesn't give a landing place for viruses and other organisms to latch in and inject their toxins, which is why John G. Lake, as we said before, in Spokane, Washington, 100 years ago, would go there and they'd put live disease cultures in his hand, and the diseases would die, not him. Why? Who was this man? What did he think? I don't know. It would be interesting. But I don't know who he was and what he did. I just know the story. The next word is Aleph Mem Tav Vav. Well, the word Aleph Mem Tav is truth. So Aleph Mem Tav Vav means his truth. But if I look at the word for Mem Tav Vav Hey, it means sketch, like to take a pencil and sketch. Tav Vav Hey means to mark or outline or sign. But it also means fright or terror, and it's astonishment. It's where we get the word tohu, like Genesis 1, and the world was without form and void. Tohu vebohu. And it's like, oh no, what's going on? What I'm saying is that I'm now going to read what's in these words a little differently than you might have got it in the text that you're familiar with. I will mark him with a design feature of truth. He will be disturbing, fright and terror, and astonishment, articulate of every syllable, of every letter of the Paleo Hebrew. Hey, that's what we're doing. So I'm sitting here and look at verse 4 of Psalm 91 and say that there's this something about rising up with wings of these pinion wings like wings of eagles has to do with knowing what these letters mean, knowing how to pronounce them, recognizing them, and articulating them in your mouth. And that somehow that's going to be this event of Yahweh causing you to soar, clearing out your enemies, and making you so that you can conduct business as usual and travel about. The word buckler is actually to go around conducting commerce, and is not necessarily the word for a small type of shield. And if we're knowing what he said and what it means, we can go, though other people are disturbed, we can go because it's like being marked with a particular design feature, which is the Tavav. I will, Aleph, Mem, be the one who is at the place of being marked with the design feature of his covenant. Aleph, Mem, Tav, Vav. There's more to this. You can picture the wings as like the wings of the menorah. In 2005, one of the things I was saying was be the menorah. If you understand the letter Samek, that came out of the letter Nun, which came out of the letter Mem, because it came from the teaching, the Lamed of the Kaf, the Torah instructions, because we chose to enter his Het, be sealed by him, Tet, and him who, the Yod, the creator of heaven and earth, because we chose to enter into his refuge of his Torah, taking it to heart, sprouting up and being like a tree bearing fruit, which is a picture of the menorah bearing the light of my little Dorito, my little corn chip. Him saying that of us. Those are the wings that lift us up as pinion wings to soar above the fray, above the fear, so that we can just be about his business as standard procedure. Verse 5, Lo tira, no fear. Mem pechet dalet, ma fachad, which means to be timid, dread, alarm, fright, or awe. Lila, night. Machatz. Well, the word chatz is arrow, but machatz literally means a ladling jar, a ladling, like a soup, you take a ladle, or it means a severe wound. And then the word yuf, yod ayin vav pei, which is where you get the word ufi, which is my little bird. Bird is ufi. And then it says yamam, which is day or daily. So you could say, no fear, a place of dread, alarm, fright, or awe by night, arrow flying daily. So that's the song that I sang earlier. I will not fear the terror by night, nor the arrow that flies by day. For you have commanded your angels on high to guard me in all my ways. That's from the other verse, 11. And this is here, verse 5. So the fellow at the hiding place just rearranged, like I said, he rearranged the words from Psalms 91 and made a beautiful song out of it. He'd play it in the worship service, and it was just incredible. Verse 6. Midbar be'afel yachal, Yod He Lamed Kaf, Yaleka, Mem Kuf Tet Bet, Me Katav, Yod Shin Vav Dalet, Yashud, Zadi He Resh Yod Mem, Zaharim. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words in verse 6. Midbar, well, that's wilderness, but it could be language stipulations, the place of words, or mem means the place of or away from, so you could say contrary to the words, and then the word ba'afel, aleph pe lamed, boy, that's awful. Aleph pe lamed, afel, afel, that's awful. Literally, it means doom, gloom, dark, obscure, misfortune, even if. It means even if. So that's where we get the English word awful. So even if there's words of dark, gloomy misfortune, turn on the internet. That's all you hear right now. Everything is about the coronavirus and all the lockdown and all the deaths and all this the crashing of the stock market and the economy and the businesses. If there was ever a time when verse 6 was today, it's Medabar Be'afel, but Yod He Lamed Kaf, he will walk. He Lamed Kaf is halakah, which is walking. He will walk. Who's he? The one who's not fearing because he's regarding Yahuwah's words. Then this word mem, kuf tet bet. Mem is the place of, or the contrary to. So it's like doing or not doing. It's the two sides of the coin, as it were. But the word kuf tet bet, QTB, literally means to polarize. It's an axis on which spins a globe, or if you were to put a plate, like the flat earth, and spit that on a. So either way, it's an axis. The point is, it also means pestilence or demon of destruction is a kuf tet bet. So is it a polarizing axis? It's also principal theorem, or is it a demon of destruction? The point is, the axis upon which is balanced your perspective of destruction or refuge. There's something about what's being said here in verse 6. The words, though they seem awful, what we hear, the words that he gave us are to counteract and remedy whatever we hear as being awful. And then this word Yod Shin Vav Dalet is not found in the dictionary, but Yod Shin means is, substance, and reality, and Shin Vav Dalet is literally comes from Shin Yod Dalet, which is whitewash or plaster. It says it means discretionary adjudication, judgment or determination. If you change the prefix from the Yod to the Aleph, you'll see that Aleph Shin Dalet means waterfall, cascade, or to pour out. Shin Dalet is the word for Shad, which is like El Shaddai, which is the Almighty or some kind of overwhelming force. So like a waterfall of an overwhelming force pouring out as if in reality. So you could say with the Yod prefix, it means that as if it were, or he will cause the cascade. And then the last word here was Zadi He Resh Yod Mem. Zahar. Well, that's where you get the word Zohar, which is that Kabbalistic book of enlightenment, shining, gleaming, and it literally means bright, clear noonday, the zenith, or the window opening up and letting light in. So you could say, wait a minute, okay, go back to the beginning of verse 6. It's basically, even if all the words you hear are dark and gloomy, obscure, if you will walk contrary to that, if you will walk as if what Yahweh said was true, it will make it happen. So there's this book by Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich. There's a few other books. We mentioned a couple of years ago, Matrix Energetics and Alexander Lloyd's book about healing codes. There's something about saying, look, are we a victim of circumstances? Did Yahuwah create the human being to be an impotent, unable to do anything? We're victims. We're like sitting in a boat and the boat's got no rudder, no oars, no sail, and it's just being tossed on the waves. What can humans do? It seems like, by reading all these scriptures and determining what he's saying, that he created the human being. Yahuwah our Elohim created the human being to have intent, to have belief, to have hope. And if we put our thoughts, our energies directed specifically in line with his words, we can affect a change. An affecting, call it the physics of frequency, of resonance. This word soner, like this is sonora. There's something about projecting our thoughts and envisioning that what Yahuwah said was true, and it makes it or allows it or causes it to happen. Look at it this way. We talked about the word Zadi Lamed, and put something in an oven. If I take some kind of food and I stick it in the oven, is it going to cook? No. Why? Because there's no heat. If I turn the heat on,
I thought you were done.
if I turn the heat on, then somebody walks in and said, hey, I thought you were done. I put it in the oven. Why isn't it done yet? Because you never turn the heat on. How do you turn the heat on? If Yahweh says, hey, I've got a plan for doing something, and he requires or allows us to participate with his agenda by believing, by hoping, by projecting our imaginary visioning of what he said to be true. It's like turning the heat on so that it can happen. There's a verse in Genesis where he says of Abraham, he says, I have some plans for Abraham. I have some thoughts about what I want to make happen, but it can't happen unless Abraham teaches his children the Torah, the instructions. Abraham, he says, I noticed Abraham's a teacher. He likes doing this stuff. So he chose Abraham specifically for the reason that he noticed that Abraham has the disposition, the predisposition to teach his children and his household, his servants around him, so that they will then do the instructions. And when they do the instructions that they were taught, then what Yahweh said concerning Abraham can happen. You see, if we just read the Bible stories and say, well, I know the story, it's like, wait a minute. There's something about Yahweh builds the oven, Yahweh gives us the food, we prepare the food, we stick it in the oven, or he puts it in the oven, he sets up circumstances, but it's our thoughts, it's our belief, it's our doing what he said with a good intent of desiring and being one with him, that is the heat that turns on that oven. We, in this crisis, every day of our life, whether there's a crisis or not, if we read these words and within us align by pondering, meditating, contemplating, all those are the same as the word that means navigate, steer, rudder, helm, navigate, the spelling of words phonetically by the consonants of each letter in Hebrew. It's all the same word. Hey, Gimel, hey, Haggah. It's also where we get the word notary and notar, to watch, keep, and to be a guard. There's 3 or 4 different words for a guard. It's the word for nautical. It's the word for navy, to navigate. To navigate, the spelling of words, is to be in Yahuwah's Zavot, his armed forces as it were. We are supposed to be literate. That's why he wrote with his finger and said, teach these things and write these words upon your doorposts and upon your gates. Think of these things, and whether you're literate or not, one word at a time, one letter at a time. There's 22 letters. It's not that difficult. It's as difficult as you choose to make it. But there's something about this axis upon which everything else spins can be seen as our attitude about what he said. And whether we choose to believe it. When the Israelites were taken out of Egypt and he was bringing them in the promised land, he says, they all said, oh, he only brought us out here to kill us. He hates us. Was there not enough graves in Egypt that he brought us out here to the wilderness to kill us here? And he says, don't keep saying that. Or that's what's going to happen. Don't keep saying that. They kept saying it. They kept saying it. He says, fine. As you speak, you get. As you speak, you get. That's actually what the word abracadabra means in Hebrew. As you speak, that's what happens. You cause it to exist. This isn't magic. This isn't witchcraft. This isn't sorcery. This is the way Yahuwah built the planet. He told us something, and he says, if you keep saying it, you're going to cause the destruction. And finally, they kept saying, that's it. You're done. Wander around 40 years, die in the wilderness. Bury that generation. The children you thought would be eaten by the giants, I'm going to bring them up, bring them into the land, and they will eat the food off the giant's table. And that's what happened. As we speak in line with what he said, we can facilitate, or we can cooperate, or we can be echad with him in making what he said. He's been looking forward to wiping out our enemies for all these centuries. He's been looking forward to bringing the return of the wicked man's ways upon his own head for all these centuries. And I can show you hundreds of verses in these scriptures where it's going to happen. I would dare say this is not the beginning of the tribulation, the Antichrist, the beast, the false prophet, the man of sin, the materialized devil in front of us, where he takes over the world, because Yahweh hasn't brought his people out of being scattered across the face of the earth and bringing them back to the land he promised our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, yet. He hasn't done it yet, so the world can't end. But if we cooperate with him, if he does choose this to be the occasion, wonderful, great, that's however he's going to pull off that exodus is up to him. The point is, we have something in front of us to look forward to, and for us learning his language is an axis upon which everything else spins and is balanced. And what's in front of us is the Zacharim. It's the zenith of the noonday. An interesting consideration. Some people think that the Bible says that in Genesis that the day starts at evening. The Jews think that, the SDAs think that, and a bunch of other people think that. But the thing is, the day doesn't start in the evening, because evening means blending. You have to have two things that you blend together. The blending is a rev, which is evening. It's evening out, daylight and dark, and so somewhere in between that's evening. It can't start in the evening. He said there was a darkness. He said, let there be light. So let there be light was the first thing on record of him having created, though he's obviously the one who made the darkness, but the darkness can be like this nothingness. He made light, and then it says Vayahi, there came to be Erev, Vayahi Voker, Yom Echad, there came to be evening, there came to be morning. Then he called it a day. The last thing that happened was the morning. And it's like, oh no, there we go. This is a big contention. But the point is, if the last thing that happened to be morning, and then he called it a day, and then there was the next day where he worked, and then he called it a day, and then that was the morning again, was the last thing that happened before he called it a day. So if you think, oh, the first thing that happens is darkness, so that the seventh millennium, everything has to start in this great darkness. So you anticipate this great darkness in front of you, and it's like, oh, this is it, this is the great darkness. You're projecting the darkness. But if you think that the day, the millennium, the era starts with the sun charging up from behind the horizon and its strength, the boker, whoa, then that's what's in front of us. The way you think and what you anticipate and what you project and what you meditate on can change the reality, because human beings were designed to generate frequencies. And so what you eat, whether it's bats and rats and things that he told us not to, pork and shellfish and things that he told us not to eat, that sets up a frequency in our cells through our digestive system. If you eat his words, if you eat animals that chew the cud and have split hooves, and or grains that he said, and or the fish with fins and scales, it sets up a different frequency, which sets up a different way for your mind to project into the universe, the material universe. And some people might think, oh, now he's going there. We had an energy conference a couple years ago back in Ohio. It said some things that people maybe didn't like, but the point is, the cosmos, the physical universe, is based on physics, based on electrons and protons, which are just vibrating energy packets. It all boils down to vibrating energy packets, like it or not. And the more you study about that, the more that everything Yahweh said makes sense. The more we ponder his words, we can become agents of effect. And so even in this crisis, if we look at what Yahweh said, put our minds there, our hearts there, and with all our souls, go, yes! Amen. Hallelujah. Hodula Yoaki Tov Ki Leo Lam Chazdo. Give thanks to Yahweh for his goodness. But the word goodness, Tet Vav Bet, means also like this full basket. Give thanks because the full basket of what Yahweh wants to do, Ki Leo Lam, universally for all mankind forever, Chesed, his chesed, het samik, is this refuge. Samik dalit is the secret. His secret refuge is that when we give thanks, it changes things. Hallelujah. That's the proactive thing that we can be doing right now to get on board with what Yahweh said. Believe it so. Speak the words. Harbor it in your heart. Say, thank you, Yahuwah, for being my refuge, my strength, giving me your words, unveiling what has been hidden for centuries, for millennia. Human beings on the face of the earth had no access to these words. They were denied, they were contradicted, they were refuted, and he's given them back. Time to take a break and make another video later.
Yeah, we're 52 minutes already.
Well, that was verses 3, 4, 5, and 6. The next verse says, 1,000 may fall from one side and 10,000 from the other, but it won't come near you. But there's the last word there is igash, which basically means a tangible reality. And it's basically separate in wonderful, Pei Lamed, Yod Pei Lamed. He will separate and make wonderful this bypass, this fortress, this stronghold, Metzadika. Aleph is not only 1,000, but it means to be connected together, linked together as a tribe, and taught, trained, and domesticated. And Ravava, which is 10,000, but it also means to become thick like rain and to shoot multiplying arrows. Your right hand is to be classified as a sectarian or a heretic. Oh, you're not one of us, but one of who are you? Then the word Aleph Lamed Yod Kaf means toward you. No, and then there's the word for, that word igash can mean basically gimel shin shin, the groping, touching, feeling, fathoming the bottom of the sea, like drop something down. There's no way to consider the significant reality of this, the tangible reality. There's a word for wrestling, which is one of the derivative words, realization, materialization, actualize, incorporate. Calipers, to drop a plummet down, to sound, to send out sonar. All this is in the word. He's saying, listen, you guys have no idea what's in these words. You have not been told. They've been hidden. You've been robbed. They've been taken away and changed. You've been lied to. Yahweh himself has hidden it. You have no idea what's in these words, 1,000-fold, 10,000-fold. And if you will just regard his instructions as the fortress of your refuge and take them seriously and literally, beyond your imagination is what's possible. That's verse 7.
Hallelujah. Good talk, Eric. I want to thank everybody for liking these videos and commenting. We really do appreciate the comments. Of course, we can't respond to all of them, but we do appreciate it and we take notes.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for commenting. It's encouraging and I appreciate it.
Share the word. You guys got time. Saturate. If you're going to stay indoors, watch some more videos.
Watch them again.
Shalom, everybody.
Shalom.